Hi, I'm Michael Hardigan of Astrology, and this video is going to take a look at the new moon in Ophiuchus on the Scorpio Ophiuchus cusp on December 7th, 2018. We're going to look at the four major points of that lunar cycle: the new moon, the waxing quarter moon, the full moon, and the waning quarter moon. And we're just going to look at an overview of that next 30 days. So this is a chart for the new moon on December 7th, and you can see that this new moon is going to be right on the Scorpio Ophiuchus cusp, conjunct Jupiter, which is in Scorpio. And you can also see that Mercury has just stationed direct on December 7th. So Venus is moving direct, and Mercury will station direct. And that means that the only heavenly bodies moving retrograde are Uranus and Chiron. And this north node here is, the nodes have a natural retrograde motion. So that's the way the nodes move. They're always moving retrograde. Actually, they wobble, but it's generally a retrograde motion. So a new moon on the Ophiuchus Scorpio cusp, conjunct Jupiter, is really going to set an overtone for this lunar cycle of what I would describe as turning poison into medicine. That quality of alchemy, and alchemy, the ability to change, a transformation, change and transform a thing from one state to another. So hopefully this will be a time of a lot of healing, a time to take that scorpionic energy and turn it into the medicine of Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is the healer who could resurrect the dead through visionary powers, through spiritual power, and through being tutored in the arts of medicine. This character in mythology is the Scorpius, who came to be able to resurrect the dead and heal anything. With Jupiter conjunct this new moon, there's also a theme of faith, faith through the process of transformation. And I don't want to define what that faith might be in. Maybe it's in yourself, maybe in a higher power, maybe in gravity. And, all of those are really valid. I just want to sum this up as an opportunity to have faith throughout that process of transformation. And I also want to note a couple things about this new moon that are really interesting to me. One is that we're going to see during this lunar cycle the Sun, Moon, and Mercury all transit the Galactic Center, which is a supermassive black hole around which our galaxy organizes itself. And whenever a planet or a point passes the Galactic Center, I think it's sort of a reset or a new phase in the expression of the energies of that planet. So not only a lunar cycle of change and transformation, as an overtone, but that being heightened by the passage of the two luminaries and Mercury, a very important inner planet. All three of these planets have to do with our conscious experience. And so we could see some changes this lunar cycle. Another thing that's really interesting to me about this new moon is that the new moon itself, the sun-moon conjunction, is making an exact square to Mars, and Mars is making a very exact conjunction to Neptune. So these energies are definitely in strong relation to each other at this time. And that Mars-Neptune conjunction is in Aquarius. And there's a strong spiritual energy, a strong spiritual drive around this conjunction. And it can go one way or the other. It's a time to watch out for aggressions, especially based on paranoia or delusion. And again, through that process of inner alchemy, which in many ways astrology is really our guidebook and our template for, we have to stay grounded in the real world with this influence, with this conjunction, and cultivate our dreams and spiritual work to make the best of this influence. So it's a great time for charity. It's a great time for generosity. Great time for all things humanitarian, with this happening in the constellation of Aquarius. The last thing that's really interesting to me that I wanted to mention is that Mercury, just stationing direct, just starting to move, is going to be trine up to Chiron, the asteroid of healing. So again, amplifying this Ophiuchus influence. It's going to be trine up to Chiron for the entire first quarter phase of the lunar cycle. It's the first week. Ordinarily, Mercury moves pretty fast, but just stationing direct, it is going to be picking up speed a little more slowly in this case. So let's move forward to the waxing quarter moon. I like to look at the phases of the moon just to get an overview, just to see what's happening. We're not going to look at everything that's happening in a whole lunar cycle. That would be impossible. I want to shout out my friend and mentor, Athan Chimenti, and his channel, Mastering the Zodiac. If you're not tuned into that daily forecast, get tuned in. He gives daily updates on true sidereal astrology, the astrology of the transits that are happening every day. This for now, just looking at the waxing quarter moon. The sun does move into conjunction with the Galactic Center. We're 4 degrees apart at that waxing moon. We have an exact square, and that moon is looking at Mars, Chiron, and Neptune right in the face. Right there on the Pisces-Aquarius cusp, we have a stellium here, and that's going to be powerfully accentuating those energies of drive, energies of healing, energies of, with Neptune in Aquarius, making the world a better place. Mercury is beginning to move direct, coming into conjunction with Jupiter in Pluto, Jupiter in Scorpio. And these are more concentrated energies with these stelliums around the sun and Jupiter and Mercury, and this stellium here at the bottom of the chart around the moon, Mars, Neptune, and Chiron. And I would sum that up as just energies of spiritual drive, spiritual drive with Neptune and Mars, and of healing with the Sun in Ophiuchus, the Moon in Pisces reflecting that light, with Mercury trine up to Chiron, all of this relating to each other very nicely from the point of view of reconciliation, healing, getting to what really matters. Through the course of this lunar cycle, those are going to be the overtones, the themes. Moving on to the full moon on December 22nd, we're going to see an exact opposition to the moon by the sun just moving past the Galactic Center, so we'll have moved into a new solar phase. And the moon will be reflecting that light from Gemini, just 1 degree of Gemini, so a nice Gemini-Taurus cusp. Gemini mutable air and Taurus fixed earth are two of the more different signs that are next to each other in the zodiac, two of the more opposite dualities. Gemini is very flexible, ultimately very fluid, very mutable, very adaptable, and Taurus is very steady, very steadfast, very grounded. Gemini is concerned with ideas and with learning, communication. Taurus is concerned with material things, material security, and our values. With the moon here, we do see that Venus has moved into Libra, and that's been a long-awaited change for a lot of us who don't do so well, maybe, with Venus in Virgo. Can be a little critical, pretty demanding. And we also see that Venus has moved out of opposition to Uranus, and that's the first time Venus hasn't been opposed to Uranus since early September. So this might be a time of feeling a little freedom, a little ease in the world of our relationships, maybe romantic, maybe one-on-one partnerships, maybe business partnerships. Any one-on-one relationship is likely to feel around mid-late December a kind of easing up and maybe a fluidity in those abilities to relate. Also, we see Mercury 1 degree conjunct Jupiter, and that's going to lend a certain positivity, maybe optimism to communication in general. Looking at this full moon, we see that Mars and Chiron are in conjunction, and they're making a T-square to the Sun and Moon. And the Sun is technically conjunct Saturn, although that's... here's Saturn, here's the Sun. They are within 10 degrees, but that's a 9-degree conjunction. And I would sum this up holistically as an energy of rebirth. Energy of rebirth with the Sun moving past the Galactic Center and a drive to heal. Still with this drive to heal, Mars conjunct Chiron. A good time to set intentions. A good time to... reflect, especially on relationship, now that Venus has eased up out of a more challenged position in Virgo, retrograde motion in Virgo, and an opposition to Uranus. And time just to be open to the expanse, to the new things that a Sun in Sagittarius can bring. This full moon is going to be reflecting that light of Sagittarius Sun. Moving forward to the last chart we're going to look at. This is the waning quarter. This is December 29th. We're almost into 2019. And looking at the waning quarter, Mars is making an exact conjunction to Chiron opposite the waning quarter moon. And it's not a It's not a very close opposition. We're, again, at a 9 degrees opposition, so we might not feel this incredibly strongly, but this Mars-Chiron conjunction is exact. So we may feel a strong drive with this in Pisces to heal emotionally, to a strong drive to do some spiritual, maybe mystical healing. Again, fitting with this theme of the alchemy of Scorpio Ophiuchus on the new moon, which sets the tone for this lunar cycle, much like a birth chart is the overtone of a person's life. We see Mars, Chiron, and Neptune all trine up to Venus. So we do have this stellium on in the Aquarius Pisces region supporting Venus, Mars and Chiron supporting Venus. So this is with the Sun in close conjunction to Saturn in Sag. This is a lot of positive support to Venus. A lot of positive support to the whole process of, again, turning that poison into medicine. And I think the waning quarter is going to be a good period for reflection on healing. The waning quarter is a good period to reflect, just like the waxing quarter is a good period to build, to grow, to work. The waning quarter is when the fullness of the cycle has already peaked at the full moon, and we're moving into a more reflective phase, looking at what worked, what didn't, looking at integrating the lessons of the cycle. So looking at that moon opposite this stellium here, seeing that that's trined up to Venus, supporting it after its long hiatus from direct motion. I would definitely say it's a great time to reflect on both new beginnings and any relationship issues that may have been brought to the surface by this last more challenging phase of Venus. Venus went retrograde on the 5th of October and came out of retrograde shortly before December 7th, very shortly before this new moon. And it opposed Uranus. They've been in opposition since the 12th of September. So going back, we're now here at the end of the year. It's been a good steady couple months, 2 or 3 months of what has been a more demanding cycle with Venus retrograde in Virgo for relationships. So nice to have that there. Looking forward to that next new moon, it's going to be a little bit more exciting than usual. It's a solar eclipse, and it's conjunct Saturn and Pluto in Sagittarius. So we can see Saturn and Pluto hanging out here, and this moon and sun will make their way down to Sag to form a solar eclipse. And this is, if you follow the Saros cycles, the eclipse cycles. This is an eclipse from the Saros cycle North 2. And we'll talk a little about what that means next month. Also, with that new moon in Sag, Uranus stations direct. And at that point, it looks like all the planets will be moving direct because Chiron has entered direct motion. And for the first time since earlier this year, maybe February or March, if I remember correctly, all the planets will be moving directly. And that should be a nice time for, moving forward clearly, communicating clearly, achieving our goals in an unimpeded way. But more on that next month. So just to sum up this cycle, I think the main emphasis is on the tone set by that Scorpio and Ophiuchus cusp, an energy of healing, an energy of transmuting the poison into medicine. So whatever that poison might be in your situation, maybe in your life, these are supportive times. The wind is at our backs when it comes to turning that rocky soil into fertile ground. This is a process that's supported by Jupiter, supported by whatever we place faith in. Whatever we place faith in, we can hold that faith throughout the duration of this cycle. Looking at spiritual drive, being grounded, looking at healing throughout, rebirth throughout, re-evaluating, maybe taking a look at Venus in a new light, a light we haven't been able to look at our relationships in for 2 or 3 months now, and reflecting during this healing cycle on anything that's come to the surface at that time during those 2 or 3 months. Anything around relationships, one-on-one relationships, maybe finances, with Venus, but for most people, one-on-one relationships. And looking forward to integrating the energies of new beginnings as 3 of the inner planets, 2 of them luminaries, transit the Galactic Center for a sort of reset, a fresh start. Again, the Galactic Center is a supermassive black hole, which has, I think, 30 billion times the force of our sun. It's a big influence, and it's a point that astronomically accurate astrologers have begun to pay more attention to. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.